Trojan War is one of the most talked about military conflicts of antiquity. We chiefly know it through the Iliad, a masterpiece of epic poetry delivered by Homer. In it, the Great War was caused by divine intervention, which ultimately led Trojan Prince Paris to fall in love with and abduct Helen of Sparta. Was this really the case? Did the most devastating war of the Aegean indeed happen because of the most beautiful woman in the world? Or is there more behind the legendary tale of Homer? In this episode, we dive into possible true historical reasons for the Trojan War. The 12th century BCE brought the widespread collapse of the Bronze Age civilization across the Aegean and beyond. Mycenaean Greece was no more, and the region entered the period known as the Greek Dark Ages. One of the chief features of this time period is lack of literacy among the Hellenes, which only reappeared centuries later, in about 800 BCE, in the form of Greek alphabet. One of the earliest literary works written using the alphabet was none other than the Iliad, believed to be compiled by Homer. The epic poem talks about the legendary war from the tail end of the Bronze Age, the Achaean expedition against the city of Troy. The Iliad teaches us how great Achaean heroes such as Achilles, Odysseus, Agamemnon, and others laid siege on the impregnable city of Iliad. The city would only fall after the Trojans were tricked into bringing a large wooden horse inside their walls. A horse that contained the Achaean soldiers, which then broke the city defenses from the inside, allowing the main army to march in and burn Troy down to the ground. When it comes to the reason behind this terrible conflict, Homer and other accounts of Greek mythology point to the abduction of Helen, the queen of Sparta. This was preceded by a quarrel between goddesses Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite over a golden apple delivered by Ares, the goddess of discord. Long story short, Zeus himself did not want to deal with this issue and directed the goddesses towards Mount Ida in the region of Troad, to a young Trojan prince called Paris. As each goddess attempted to bribe the prince, Hera offered to make him the ruler of Asia, Athena offered wisdom and skill in war, and Aphrodite offered the hand of the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris ultimately awarded the apple to Aphrodite and accepted her gift. Eventually, he was sent on a diplomatic mission to Sparta, ruled by Menelaus, brother of Agamemnon, the king of Mycenae and the most powerful ruler in Greece. There, the young prince met Menelaus' wife Helen and instantly fell in love. He abducted Helen and brought her back with him to Troy, thus triggering the Trojan War. All of the rulers and princes across Greece, being former suitors of Helen, were called upon their oaths made to Menelaus, which allowed Agamemnon to raise the greatest army ever assembled, numbering over 1,000 galleys. This story was known to all in the ancient Greek world, as Iliad became one of the most important literary works in antiquity. The question is, was this really the cause of the Trojan War? After all, Iliad was written in the 8th century BCE, which is 4 centuries after the events it talks about. Was the abduction of Helen just a mythological addition to the story which was developed over the period of 4 centuries of oral tradition? If yes, then why did the Achaeans actually attack Troy? We do know that the historical site of Troy 7a was violently destroyed in the early 12th century BCE. This corresponds with the traditional dating of the Trojan War, which places it between 1194 and 1184 BCE. However, there are no contemporary historical records that describe or even mention the conflict. Mycenaean Greece itself collapsed only decades afterwards, and so did the linear B writing system which the Bronze Age Greeks used. We are thus left in the dark, with no names and no descriptions of what exactly had occurred, only the ruins and the archaeological evidence of severe destruction of Troy. However, in order to understand what might have led to that point, we can take a look at the records of another Bronze Age civilization, that of the Hittites of central Anatolia. The Hittite Empire was historically a relevant party when it came to the Western Anatolian affairs, constantly battling the Achaean Greeks for control and influence throughout the region. One of the central points of contention was none other than the city of Troy, to the Hittites known as Velusa. This is best shown in a letter of correspondence sent by the king of Hatti to his Achaean counterpart, where he specifically mentions a past conflict over Velusa between the two powers. The latter is believed to be composed by Hattusili III and directed to an unnamed Achaean counterpart, dated to mid-13th century BCE. "Oh, my brother, write to him this one thing, if nothing else. Get up and go off to Hatti. Your lord has reconciled with you. If not, then come over to Ahiawa, and in whatever location I settle you, get up and resettle in another location. So long as you're hostile to the king of Hatti, be hostile from another land. Do not be hostile from my land. If you would rather be in Karkia or Massa, go there. The king of Hatti has persuaded me about the matter of the land of Velusa, concerning which he and I were hostile to one another, and we have made peace. Now, hostility is not appropriate between us." Although this latter could be as much as half a century off if we go by the traditional Trojan War dating, it nevertheless provides an insight to the political situation concerning historical Troy. We also know that the Hittites intervened in the region militarily several times. Once at the beginning of the 13th century to save a ruler named Alexandru on the Velusan throne, and then once again against a rogue warlord named Piamaradu. In the later part of the century, Hatti under Tudhalia IV are not intervening directly, but attempting to get some of their vassals in the region to help restore a king named Walmu at Troy. Whatever the case may be, Troy or Velusa was definitely destroyed at the beginning of the 12th century BCE. Was this done as a part of a wider war against the Hittites and their allies? Or was Troy attacked due to its strategic location between the Aegean and the Black Sea? Either way, the expedition of the Achaeans became the most famed and celebrated war of all, engraved to eternity in a masterpiece of epic Greek poetry. What do you think? Was historical Troy really destroyed because of what was described in the Iliad? Were the Hittites involved? Was Agamemnon really bound by an oath? Or was there any other event that triggered the Achaean War of Annihilation against the city of Troy? Let us know what you think in the comment section, and see you again soon.